Simple Google search reveals that fascism is an authoritarian political ideology and mass movement characterized by extreme nationalism, dictatorial leadership, and the suppression of opposition. Trump and MAGA certainly meet that criteria. They are crushing freedoms. Republicans in Congress and the Supreme Court are abdicating their power to Trump. ICE, or Trump's Gestapo, are being sicked on the population, tearing apart families, and he is now ordering the military to take over Democratic-led cities. Furthermore, Trump is using the government to attack political opponents and labeling citizens who disagree with him the enemies from within. It can't be any clearer that Republicans and MAGA is a full-blown fascist movement wholly committed to destroying democracy in America and abroad. Hello, my name is Benjamin Royne, and welcome to Falling for Fascism, a study of how the Republican Party descended from the party of Lincoln to the cult of Trump. So what is history? In its most basic form, history is a recounting of people and past events. However, in order to dig deeper and reveal a truer, more complete picture of people and events, historians need to exhaustively research the subject and pull from academic disciplines. History is written by the winners, so in America that has led to a mythologized version of history that gives too much credit to white men and downplays the horrors of colonization, slavery, and treatment of immigrants. Most written sources come from the winners, therefore there is a need to read through the biases of contemporary chroniclers, which requires understanding the society they lived in and the epistemology of the dominant culture. Pulling from works by political scientists, economists, sociologists, anthropologists, and other disciplines help paint a full picture of how people in the past viewed the world around them. At this point, we need to cover social constructs. As social beings that rely on other humans to survive, we've created societies that govern how we interact with one another, how we view our place within it, and the world around us. Over time, as societies grew in size and complexities, hierarchies formed. These hierarchies in areas of Europe, Asia, and Africa became stratified societies with kings, queens, nobles, a fledgling middle class, commoners, and slaves, although this form of slavery differed greatly from the race-based chattel slavery in the New World. Societies differ widely around the globe, and even state to state and city to town. But in its broadest sense, American society is based on colonial Anglo-American notions of social norms and relationships with other races. How whites interact with other races in America and what whiteness means and who is white has been deeply influenced by the colonization of indigenous peoples, slavery, and immigration. Whiteness and who is considered white has changed over time, but the idea that white people are on top of the social hierarchy hasn't. Now we're going to take a deeper dive into fascism and why corporations and industry support fascism. In fascism, the state is geared towards war, either against its population or wars of conquest, which provides reliable demand for their products. Additionally, fascism controls the workers by banning unions or other organizations that could disrupt the goals of the state in providing the facade of freedom and democracy through voting blocks, which were ultimately controlled by industry heads. Also, the state religion, which promises a rich afterlife for those who follow the rules, helps keep workers submissive with these promises of a better afterlife. Another key point of fascism is there is no real hierarchy. Whomever the Fuhrer, or in this case Trump, favors is the second most powerful person in the state. All state employees and members of the military swear loyalty to the leader, not the state, citizens, constitution, or rule of law. And this will be terms that are brought up frequently throughout. So I would like to broadly define what we mean when we say right versus left. Historically, the right wing protects the status quo to keep the wealthy rich and in power, which requires keeping the working class compliant. The right often relies on a mythologized version of history that recalls former greatness. People on the right are religiously conservative, staying with promises of a better life in the next world if they follow the rules. Their religion makes enemies of other religions and marginalized groups who deviate from church doctrine, a doctrine that is often in conflict with the teachings of the deified holy person. People on the right are also suspicious of academics. And when we speak of the left, we are talking about people who generally advocate for workers' rights, socially progressive and suspicious of state and religious authorities. People on the left often see education as a path to upward mobility. The rise of Trump will be studied by future generations, and therefore this project is an attempt to document how contemporaries understood how America got to this point. How Republicans went from the party of Lincoln, the great emancipator, to the cult of Trump, an immoral fascist. What events, people, and circumstances made Republicans predisposed to becoming fascists? Moreover, given all that we know about Hitler and the Nazis, no authoritarian white supremacist movement such as MAGA would have been able to gain power without the failures of opposition parties. Therefore, we will also discuss the mistakes, missteps, and cowardice of Democrats, which permitted such a blatantly obvious fascist movement to not only rise in America, but to gain complete control of the country. Guests and myself will dive into the history of events such as the Southern Strategy and people such as Nixon, Reagan, Ralph Reed, and W., and then discuss how these events and people convinced Republican voters to vote against their best interests and prime them to become fascists. Thank you for joining us today, and apologies for the poor production quality of the show, but we are operating with no budget and is solely produced by woke beta males and childless cat ladies, or as MAGA would say, beta males and childless cat ladies. I encourage everyone to resist this immoral and evil regime, but to do so peacefully. We hold the moral high ground in this struggle for democracy, and resorting to violence weakens our position. If you would like to participate in future episodes or share some ideas you would like us to cover, you can find me on Blue Sky under the handle Chet Manley, ChetManley, where you can leave comments on my pinned post about this podcast. Everyone is welcome to join, from academic historians to amateur historians to people who have simply lived through the time period being covered and want to share what they thought about the person or event and how they saw things change afterwards. Thanks again.